All right, friends. So as I wrote to you, today we're dedicating our Heart to Heart, our Friday at 3, to Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks, who passed away last Shabbos. I just want to look something up before I continue. So I want to get this straight. Sorry, these days are so short that it's very, very difficult to Okay. I want to share with you something of 2011. In 2011, see, this weekend, friends, is the Kinus HaShluchim. This weekend is the weekend where the Chabad rabbis from all over the world would gather at Lubavitch World Headquarters, the Rebbe Shul, 770 Eastern Parkway. Close to 4,000 emissaries, if not more. This weekend, this convention will begin on Wednesday night and culminate with the banquet Sunday night, with some sessions still continuing on Monday. The women, emissaries of Chabad, as you know, their convention is in a few months from now, in connection with the Rebbetzins Yortzeit in February. Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka, Rebbe's wife. So their convention is always the week of her Yortzeit, and the men's convention is this week. Because of COVID, so it's a virtual convention to be seen by Shluchim, and anybody that would like actually can tune in to the banquet tomorrow, on Sunday at 1 o'clock. And you can watch it online. If you just Google Kinus HaShluchim banquet, you'll find it. For those of you who received the MTC Mosaic, the website is on Mosaic. So in 2011, Rabbi Sacks was the keynote speaker at the banquet. In the presence of many thousands, I urge you to watch it in full yourself, his address of 2011, where basically he tells his personal story of how he came to be what he is. And it's because of the Rebbe and his encounter with him back in 1968 as a student in Cambridge, and subsequent private audiences that he had, 2 more over the years. It's a fascinating story, and I urge you to listen to it. It should be very easily ascertained. Rabbi Sacks coined the now very famous statement about the Rebbe. And he said that good leaders create followers, but great leaders create leaders. A common theme throughout many of his talks and his voluminous works, he's written over 30 books. Each one is an absolutely priceless gem. There's one in particular that I mentioned the other day that I want to tell you all about, and I want to show it to you. This is a classic. You can get it in paperback. It's called A Letter and the Scroll, as you can see. I would encourage you to read it and give this to your children, grandchildren, and friends. Understanding our Jewish identity and exploring the legacy of the world's oldest religion. Why be Jewish? Beautifully and eloquently articulated in this book. So it's one of many. I gave this book out when I was the rabbi in the March of the Living we had a bat mitzvah celebration for survivors who never had a bat mitzvah. Many of the chaperones didn't have a bat mitzvah, and many of the students didn't. So we had a beautiful program And this was the gift I'd chosen to give everybody, this book, A Letter in the Scroll by Rabbi Sacks. So before I get to, to quote something of that speech at the banquet, the culminating banquet in 2011 of the Chabad emissaries, I want to share this with you. You may know that he contended with cancer twice previously in his life, at 30 and then at 50, and now succumbed at the young age of 72. Still vibrant, middle of writing a book, although he may have completed it. So last Saturday night, Moishe Shabbos, the chats and the airways were full of his passing, and one of his colleagues posted the following. He said that I asked my friend Rabbi Sacks, Jonathan. So I find it strange, he says, that in all of your books and all of your sermons, and they're often very personal, he reveals, personal episodes in his life, often in a very tender and vulnerable way. Yet you never wrote about, in all your theological discussions, your own grappling with your own mortality, the struggle that you must have faced at the age of 30, and then again at the age of 50. And they were, there was the real fear of him dying then. And yet you don't write about it. I find it strange. So the rabbi Rabbi Sacks said, because, I didn't struggle with it. He said, when I was first diagnosed with cancer, my attitude was, which I learned from my dear father, was simply thank you. I said to God, if you have decided that my years are up, I thank you for the privilege, not just at having born and lived. No, that's not what he's about. I'm about to share with you. He said, I thank you for the privilege of having served you till now, which I hope I did adequately and you found satisfying. Thank you for this privilege. And if you choose to grant me more years, then I thank you for the privilege to serve you for those years and days that you will grant me. That's how he faced his own mortality. With the thank you, if this is his death, and the same thank you if it's going to mean that he lives. It's the same thank you for the privilege of fulfilling your will, serving you and contributing to your great purpose. That pretty much says everything, friends. That's a life changer. It speaks volumes about why we're here and what life is all about. We're here to serve. We're here to contribute, each one of us, our indispensable and unique role to God's plan and purpose, which is heaven on earth, which will culminate when Mashiach comes. And each one of us has an indispensable role to play. And we can all, not just can, we must, that's why we were born, affect the entire world. Because the mitzvahs we do and the goodness and kindness that we spread, even in the privacy of our home, affects the entire cosmos, as COVID has taught us so dramatically. This is a life changer. Why am I here? Why did my soul come down to the world? Because I am, as so are you and every other human being, we're all these leaders, meaning to say, we have a contribution to make that nobody else can do. And it's indispensable and integral to God's plan. My tefillin, my tzedakah, my honoring my parents, all of the obligations that God has commanded us to observe, they're all integral. They're all integral to the purpose for which I came down to the world. And that's it. There's nothing else. Everything else is a part of that. Everything. because Judaism, Torah, addresses every aspect of life, with the objective of sanctifying it and making it a link and part of the grand plan and purpose. So he said, when I'm facing death, it's thank you. And if I'm facing life, it's the same thank you. I've often said, and I may have even said this here, maybe not at the Fridays at Heart to Heart, but on our Kaddish lecture series. When somebody dies, very often the one in the greatest state of shock is the one who died. Because in one blinding moment, the truth becomes transparently apparent and clear. Once we, the soul, is wrested out of the body, we no longer view the world through this physical brain and our physical five senses and the meager knowledge that we have of life. We become enlightened absolutely the moment we die. We see the truth as God sees the truth. Transcend all prejudice. I mean, prejudice is just the natural state of the human being. We're all prejudiced based on what we've learned, education, upbringing, and that shapes and molds our thinking in a certain way. And that's where we see life and react to it. The moment we die, in the instant, that's all gone, all of it. The soul is being locked into this body, this fused with the physical body, with the brain, limited to our experiences in life, and then we're liberated from that instantly, and that could be heaven or hell. And for many, it's hell. It's hell because it's painful, deeply embarrassing to realize in an instant that I lived a whole life of 60, 70, 80, 90 years and missed the point. Things that I may have dedicated my life to while I was in this body, now I'm terribly embarrassed of. It was about making money and fame and fortune and pleasure seeking. And now it's terribly embarrassing. That's the hell. So a life like Rabbi Sacks, challenges us that it doesn't have to be that way. We can live heaven on earth, which means to say the truth, which means to say the open up to the realization that there's meaning to my life. I'm put here for a reason. I have to contribute. I have to be a leader. In his words, if you listen to, maybe you did already the lecture, the talk to the graduating students, greatness is thrust upon us. All of our previous history, of which we need to take further. So I think, if we're going to think about his life, maybe this is one of the most incredible messages, simple truths to be one to walk away with. And he certainly deserves that we should be inspired, because that's was his horizon out. That's why he lived. But that's why we all should be living. To wake up in the morning and ask ourselves the simple question. So, dear God, how do I serve you today? How do I contribute my contribution to making this world a better place? To ending suffering, injustice, and death, and bringing about your presence here on earth. How do I do that? It's not a mystery. He gave us a Torah for that. And it's available in every language. I don't mean the 5 books of Moses. You won't know it. You will not know what to do from reading that. You've got to read it with its accompanying originally given oral explanation called the Talmud, the Code of Jewish Law, and the thousands and tens of thousands of books that have been written that elaborate and address all the issues of life. It's not a mystery. It's not a mystery what our obligations are. My aunt, of blessed memory, that's Nechama's aunt, we called her affectionately Hindi Neni. Many of you would remember her fondly. Neni means aunt, and Hindi was her name. She became a regular at the MTC in the last 15, 20 years. Often spending Shabbos in my mother-in-law's home, her sister's home. So she would say, it's not 10 suggestions. or 613 suggestions. It's 10 commandments. 10 general and 613. Mind you, it isn't that many because many of them don't apply to everybody. But you get the point. The point is the commandments. And of course, the commandment, God is saying, this is why I've created you. This is what I need from you. And that's, of course, what you need. Since I need it from you, it's now your need because I created you. And I need you to do these mitzvahs because I've got a plan and purpose. And I want heaven on earth. I could do it myself. I don't want to. I've chosen that you should make it happen and partner with me. So I assume that many of you probably watched that second clip with my niece, Rivka, when she asks him, my sister, her mother's question, we all ask, why bad things happen to good people. And no doubt you heard his answer. If you did, he said, we're never going to get the answer, and we dare not get an answer. Because then we make peace with it. And God doesn't want us to. He wants us to protest injustice. Like people say, why did the Holocaust happen? So I say to them, you mean you want an answer and then you'll sleep okay at night? You really want an answer, and then it's going to be okay. No, I don't want an answer. I'm not God. No, my job is to make sure it doesn't happen again. I don't want an answer. Because we got an answer, as Jonathan Sacks so eloquently says in these few words to my niece, we'd make peace with it. We'd be forced to accept it. And God wants us to rebel against injustice. And that's what the mitzvahs are, directly or indirectly. In summary, we are to partner with Hashem in perfecting his world. And each one of us is that leader that needs to inspire and affect others. And again, the indispensable role that we have. Humility is a wonderful virtue, but it's often corrupted. It's often terribly corrupted, where humility ends up being distorted in the sense of, who am I? What difference do I make? And low self-esteem and self-value. That's a lie. I am everything. You are everything. We're all everything to God. We all make all the difference in the world. My tefillin, my Shabbos, my kosher. The details of it make all the difference in the world. So I'm going to end with this little story that he told at the convention in 2011. Of course, I was there. We brought a group from Montreal, as we bring every year. So he told the following story. I'm not going to ruin his talk. You can still go online, and I urge you to listen to the whole thing after Shabbos. And he tells this story. He says, this was told to him by a Chabad Shliach who was visiting a small town in Alaska. There is a permanent Shliach in Alaska, a close friend of mine, Rabbi Yossi and Esty Greenberg and their children. They live in Anchorage. But if I'm not mistaken, it may have been him or another Chabad fellow before Chabad's permanent presence. And they were visiting all of the cities in Alaska. They came to this small town, and I guess they go to the mayor's office, and they're asking if there are any Jewish people in the town, and they were told there aren't any. To which the visiting Chabad rabbi said, all right, he's come here. Would it be all right if I addressed the children in the public school, in the school? Because as you know, as Jews, our obligation is to inspire the whole world to be a light unto the nations. One of them is big campaigns, the 7 Noahide laws, the 7 laws in the Torah that are universal for all humankind. That's what chosen means. We're chosen to be responsible for the whole world. So he would speak to the kids in public school. So in the course of his talk, he asked if there's anybody Jewish in the classroom, one of the classes. And a little girl raises her hand and says, no, actually his question was, does anybody know anybody Jewish? Trying to get a sense of, what the kids know. So one girl raises her hand and says, yes, I know someone who's Jewish. And he says, oh, really? He says, and who was that? And she says, my mother, which of course means she's Jewish. He's got a few seconds now in the classroom. What's he going to tell this child? What's he going to tell this child? He prayed to God for assistance. He thought to himself, what would the Rebbe say to her? And this is what he says. I think it was a Friday that he visited the class or the assembly. He says, this city is the westernmost point. It's the furthest, it's the last place in the world where Jews live, where you live, which is populated, where the Shabbat begins. Now, the Shabbat is ushered into the world with the lighting of Shabbat candles by Jewish women who light at least 2 and girls who light 1. He said, you would be the last Jewish girl in the world to light Shabbat candles. And the whole world is waiting for your Shabbat candle, for Shabbos to truly descend and embrace the whole world. The whole world is waiting for your Shabbat candle. Jonathan Sacks shared this story. He said, because this is the quintessential message of the Rebbe. He empowered this girl. And this is the truth. It's the truth for all of us, friends. The whole world is waiting for my mitzvah, your mitzvah. And it makes all the difference in the world. And it's such a symbolic story because the perfect world that we're praying for, waiting for, have lived for and died for, is called the era of the great Shabbat. Peace, serenity forever for all humanity. So this Shabbat comes through the final mitzvah. And who is that final mitzvah? Each one of us. Each one of us is that mitzvah. Every one that we do. And as you'll see, he was saying in his talk as well, but he put it so beautifully. I have to remember this. He said, the world respects a Jew who respects his Judaism or her Judaism. The world is disappointed in the Jew who doesn't respect his or her own Judaism. We learned that the hard way, and many of us still have to learn the lesson. This, by the way, I'm running out of time, but somebody asked me the other day, why is it that overwhelmingly Jews, particularly in America, are left politically and liberals? Why is this a Jewish value? You'd think that conservative values would be more in line with the Jewish values, the family, respect, work, the ethic, the work ethic. 6 days you work as a commandment. You know why? Why are Jews drawn and overwhelmingly supported the liberal cause? Because they mistakenly believe, tragically and mistakenly, that if we tear down all barriers and differences, then we will be accepted. That's what drives it all. Tear down borders. There's no woman, there's no man, there's no black, there's no white, there's no Jew, there's no non-Jew. All in the name of so-called equality. But this isn't equality. Sameness isn't equality. In the words of Jonathan Sacks, it's the dignity of difference, respecting difference, and how we're different and we all contribute differently to the great mosaic of humanity and the great purpose, like a symphony. It's not one instrument and one note. Not only is it boring, it's jarring. And it's a denial of the reality when each instrument can produce its own unique sound. And to enforce sameness is to actually destroy. It all unravels and self-destructs. So again, why Jews are obsessed with the notion, because they think if we're going to blur boundaries and tear down, more than tear down, enforce this value of there are no differences, then we will blend in and be accepted finally. The reason we are hounded is because we're different. So let's erase our difference and then we'll be accepted. Well, that worked very well in Nazi Germany, didn't it? That's where this all began. Is we're first German and then Jewish, and even being Jewish is culturally Jewish, and moreover, it's really just another expression of Christianity. They turned the synagogues into churches and organs. The rabbis wore clothing like priests in the Reformed temples and so on. The whole philosophy was, we're not different. We're not different. There are no differences. And what comes out of Germany, I have to tell you. And the whole notion of the Aryan superior race, which the Nazi recognized was the enemy. This subject requires more elaboration. Why am I saying it? But yeah, that was one of the themes of that incredible talk in 2011 at the banquet. You're proud, you have something to contribute, you have a message, each one of us, in our ordinary encounters and everyday interactions. We're proudly Sabbath observant, we're proud to eat kosher. We celebrate our difference and we celebrate the differences of all human beings. Each one is unique. Again, the dignity of difference that creates the symphony. The unity that threads through multiplicity, uniting it all. One God from whom we all come, each one like the different organs of the body, contributing their own unique contribution. So be proudly Jewish. The world respects the Jew who respects his or her Judaism and expects it. So friends, Shabbos is about to come, the beautiful Shabbos, 4:05 or 4:06, candle lighting. Some candles have 4:07, but lighted 4:06 the latest. And women and girls listening, it's your Shabbat candle that brings the blessing of peace to the world, to your home and to the world. Let's all be inspired, moved by the example and message of Rabbi Sacks, which is not his own, not original. It's the Torah, our eternal values. But he was the most eloquent spokesman of our people and a great loss. But his legacy endures, and I'm sure will increase now the interest in what this man taught and where he got his teachings from, most importantly, the endless wisdom, the divine wisdom in our Torah, given to us by the Creator, the elixir of life, the recipe for life, the recipe, the means by which we perfect God's world ultimately, heaven on earth, all of us reunited here with our loved ones in the great and eternal Sabbath, and everlasting joy and celebration. Amen. Now, let me see whether I can. Yes, let's see. Here we go. All right, we've got some kind of, see your faces, some of you. Good Shabbos, everyone. Let's see a smile. Otazoi, good. You can, let me see if you can unmute yourselves and let me do that. Participants, allow you to. Yeah. So you can unmute yourself. So please do that and shout out. Good Shabbos. Yep. A wave. That's good. Again, I'll have to mention all your names, but I'll be in trouble because I didn't mention everybody. So I see you from here and from out of town. Baruch Hashem. Some new faces too. I'm waving to you, to all of you. Yeah, Bana, good to see you. Shabbat Shalom. All right, folks, I'll be running. Shabbat Shalom, Simcha, joy, confidence, optimism, faith. The world shaking up, but it's arriving quickly to a wonderful, wonderful destination of which we are all part of it. All right? So Shabbat Shalom, and see you again real soon. In good health.